Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. Today we are playing a donation deck of Loam Pox. This is a strategy where you want to grind your opponent into the dirt and just erode their ability to play the game at all by smashing all their lands with things like the Wasteland and eventually the Ghost Quarter, recurring those with Life from a Loam, as well as using Smallpox to really take a big bite out of your opponent's resources. And we can then control our opponent's hand with things like Hymn to Tourach and Raven's Crime, which we can get a lot of value with when we're doing Life from Alone. So we're not trying to win the game necessarily. We're trying to slow our opponent down so they can't win the game, and then we will win eventually in that situation. And the way we actually do win the game is usually going to be Urza Saga. Just make some constructs and bash with those. But we do have a Retrofitter Foundry and a currency converter that can make tokens, along with an Orcish Bowmaster, as well as Grist the Hunger Tide, which can make 1/1s until they're good enough to kill your opponent. That's pretty much it. We also have the Liliana to strip our opponent's hand, but you can very much see what our strategy is here. We've got a few utility lands here that we can go and find with crop rotation, things like Maze of Ith, or a Nurturing Peatland, Bojuka Bog. Boseiju obviously not a great one to find with crop rotation, but we can find it with crop rotation, and then we can Smallpox it away, and then buy back with Life from a Loam. So there are routes to it. That's all right there. We've got some Mox Diamonds to try and ramp us up a little bit so we can get some early Smallpoxes in, as well as having things that produce mana that aren't lands, so that if we're Smallpoxing away, we still end up with some resources that we can play the game on. We've got one of Cabal Pit as a little bit of recurring removal we can use in certain situations. And we have Cycling Land so that we can rebuy our Life from a Loam and have multiple dredges in a turn if we need to. There's a few dark rituals in here just so we can power out turns of like early Liliana or ritualing into Hymn to Tourach Thoughtseize and certain matchups is going to be very potent as well. I would say one of the more interesting things I found when I was looking at this list is the Basilisk Collar. Now at first you would think, well, why would you have this instead of a Shadow Spear, for example? The thing is, as a Pox deck, we don't want our opponent to have things in play. And the best way of doing that is obviously removing your opponent's ability to play things to the board, and then things like Smallpox can clean them up, along with Liliana and Grist. But we can produce quite a lot of 1/1s in our deck. Orcish Bowmasters, Grist the Hunger Tide, Retrofitter Foundry, currency convert makes 2/2s, but similar principle. So we can make little guys. And Basilisk Collar just means they're always going to trade up, which is really interesting. And we're not looking for the big Shadow Spear racing type things with Urza Saga, because we are dedicated to trying to control the game and our opponent's resources. So we're using the Basilisk Collar as a form of resource denial, whereas Shadow Spear would just be a way of trying to smash through and win the game. Now whether or not that's right to do, I don't know. I haven't played with Basilisk Collar for a while, and I'm excited to see how it feels in a deck like this, where I completely understand the logic of why we're running it. So I'm curious to see how that plays out, and hopefully we'll be able to showcase that nicely with some wonderful victories. Sideboard wise, we've got some Graveyard Hate in the form of Cling to Dust and Grafdigger's Cage. Cling to Dust is pretty handy when we're milling our own library with things like Life from a Loam anyway, and the Grist, so we can find our Graveyard Hate here. And Grafdigger's Cage can be found off of the Urza Saga. And this says, players can't cast spells from graveyards or libraries, but what we can do is we can dredge Life from a Loam and keep doing our thing. So this doesn't impact us. And a Pithing Needle, if there's some non-creature permanents that we need to deal with, the Pithing Needle can be useful for that. I've got a Dark Blast in here that we can use to hit some little creatures here and there. We do have a 1 Entomb in the main deck, which can be used to find like the Raven's Crime, Life from a Loam, or this Dark Blast. And sometimes you get in a situation where you can just dredge Dark Blast every turn. That's going to be good enough to win the game. We have 3 Run Afouls. So things like Maret Lage could be a bit of a problem for us if we don't have the resources to deal with it right there and then. So we've got some of these in there. And often I find Pox decks can struggle against a Delver deck where you Smallpox away their first few creatures or whatever, but then they just play a big Murktide and you have very little time to try and find an answer. Run Afoul can just help us with that. Then we have 2 Cursed Totems, because there are decks out there with a bunch of mana dorks and things, which can be awkward because we're trying to constrict our opponent on mana, and they can have more things that produce mana that they can put out in a quicker time than regular land drops. So a Wasteland lock isn't going to be good against those decks necessarily. So Cursed Totem can help us out there. And then we have 4 Sphere of Resistance to help against the combo decks that are trying to cast lots of spells. This also plays into our game plan of just stripping away our opponent's resources. So we might find ourselves bringing this in other matchups aside from like Stormy combos type decks, but that's primarily what it's there for. And that's the deck. I've played Pox a little bit before. it's very easy to get me to play a deck with Raven's Crime in. I absolutely adore this card, and it's a very simple and fair design, which is what I like. So yeah, this is the deck, and hopefully we're going to have a good time. The donor for this deck list has given me a challenge. If I can go 4-1 or better, I will double my money on this one, so that's quite exciting. But we'll have to see what our matchups are. It's certainly possible though. If you would like a donation deck on the channel, by all means get in touch either via the Discord, which is in the description below, or just leave me a comment and we'll sort it out. All that's left for you to do is hit like and subscribe and sit back and watch some Legacy. Let's go. If you're looking to play Legacy on MTGO like me, why not try Card Hoarder? They're a rental service that I personally use, and I found them better than other rental services that I've used in the past. So why not give them a try? Hello and welcome to round 1. Unfortunately, there was a bit of a mix-up here, and I wasn't recording the first game of round 1. So we're currently into game 2. We lost game 1. We're playing against the Crusher Bot BG mono-red artifact sort of burn deck. In game 1, they basically played Retrofitter Foundry and kind of went around us for the whole game. So this is our opening hand for the post-board game. We can't really do anything with this, so we have to mulligan. So we have the Pithing Needle for their Retrofitter Foundry, and we have a Saga game that we can play out here and a Wasteland for our opponent's Saga. I think this one is an acceptable hand to keep, and we're probably getting rid of probably just the Raven's Crime here. I think we need our mana sources because we have 2 disappearing lands we need to funnel a load of mana into. Alright, so then we're just going to lead out on the Barren Moor here, and we follow up with the Pithing Needle next turn. If our opponent goes Ornithopter into Retrofit's Foundry, that can be a little bit annoying. That's quite a specific draw. I think I'm willing to take that chance to actually be able to develop our mana properly for the next few turns. Now, maybe we could have just played the Polluted Delta and we'd draw more land and it'd be okay. We were not punished. Right, Mistress Bauble. Okay. They're going to see the top card of our library before we do. We find a Liliana of the Veil. That's interesting. How into Liliana of the Veil are we? And then we're going to begin this with this on Retrofitters. We have taken out the Retrofitters Foundry from our deck in sideboarding because theirs is just way more better. Way more better? That's terrible English. Way better than ours, and gives them a lot more ability because they've got a load of other Thoughtseize and things. So now we have to decide if we're going to go set into an Urza Saga game or a Liliana game. We can play the Saga, and we can pivot away from making constructs if we really need this Liliana for something. But a lot of their creatures come down in multiples. Say like Brayer's Apprentice makes a token, stuff like that. So we need to kind of be a little bit wary of that. Ancient Tomb from our opponent, Crucible of Worlds. Okay, that certainly makes our Wasteland look a little bit redundant here. But that's fine. And given the option of where we are now, I think we just want to Polluted Delta to get a Bayou. Our opponent doesn't really mess with our mana base as far as I'm aware. Let's go and get a Bayou here. And then we can start churning out as Saga tokens. So the Liliana also loses a decent chunk of its utility here because our opponent can just discard lands and they don't care because they get them back with it. Crucible anyway. So it's a little bit awkward. We didn't bring any graveyard hate because this is not usually a matchup that has anything that cares about the graveyard. There's a great furnace for our opponent. Haven't really committed much to the board yet, which is interesting because they're, there's kind of an aggro deck with a burn finish. But they have the ability to grind games with like Retrofitters and Brayers. Okay, so here's the Brayer's Apprentice. And there is a Thoughtseize token. But they can't immediately turn it into 4/4s because they don't have a Retrofitter's Foundry that can do anything in this game. Due to our lovely little Pithing Needle. Let's make a construct. Our opponent's deck's full of burn spells, so they can remove these from play relatively well. Alright. So I think we're going to see a Lightning Bolt on our construct. A Galvanic Blast, sure. Same but different. So now we have a choice. We're going to see another burn spell. Okay. I think that makes the choice a little bit easier for us there. We could Currency Converter and start getting some value, but I think we probably just want to play this Mox Diamond to make our next Urza Saga stronger. Is it that or is it the Currency Converter? It's kind of an interesting one. So this Wasteland isn't going to be the most useful for us. So that's quite happy to go into the Mox Diamond. If we get the Currency Converter, we can maybe do some other stuff with like a Liliana and things. But it feels like this game is just about our Urza Saga. So, are we supposed to make the best Urza Saga we can and make sure we have enough mana to always use it? I think so. Get rid of this one. Then we'll deploy our Saga, and we can start ticking that up. This means that we might be able to actually cast something next turn alongside our Urza Saga activations. But this is a matchup that I suspect is probably quite hard for us poor little Pox players, because they've got a bunch of mana that we can't really remove in the form of like their Mox. And they also have creatures that make 2 creatures at once, like Breya's Apprentice. And they have good things like Ornithopter they can just throw under the bus without worrying about it. Retrofitter Foundry is obviously very problematic for us. They can just keep churning out guys. They've got a whole bunch of basics in their deck by the looks of it. So pretty awkward. And this is definitely a real clock. So this is what, 9? So it's not going to take much for them to have lethal next turn. And this is proving slightly difficult for us to answer. So we can play a Grist. But that takes us off of using our Urza Saga, which we're going to use to block their Breya's Apprentice. If they've got some burn spells, I think we're just cooked here. I think we have to lean into the Saga and try and get some life back with a Basilisk Collar in the near future. So I think we're going to play out this Wasteland. We definitely don't want to play out one that's going to hurt us. We're 1 mana shy of being able to cast one of these at the same time. So I think we're just going to hope that our Urza Saga can keep us alive for 1 more turn. And then get a big Basilisk Collar hit in and try and stabilize that way. But our opponent's deck is full of burn spells. Retrofitter Foundry. That's probably just going to get sacrificed to a to a Shrapnel Blast, I suspect. And that will be lethal. Or it could just be an artifact to make this guy bigger, which is a perfectly acceptable thing to do. So this is going to turn on Lightning Bolt as a win condition as well as Galvanic Blast here, now that we've taken this 8. Okay, that's weird. This gives them 1 more damage. Is that worth doing there? I'm not convinced. I think they should just be drawing cards after damage to try and get a burn spell into play there. So I think we have to make this construct here. And then we get the Basilisk Collar for now. If we equip this and bash, this will be bashing for 6, which is not enough to survive what they have here. So we need to play a Wasteland into Grist here. So this is black, green, and 1. So if they have a burn spell, we're dead anyway. So I think we attack with this construct, then sacrifice this construct to kill the Thopter. Sacrificing my massive construct to kill your 1/1 Thopter. Okay, so we've got the Basilisk Collar to try and help us stabilize, but our opponent can draw burn spells here. They could equip Cranial Plating and swing, and we can trade creatures off and they'd just be trying to draw to burn spells. That's probably quite an effective way to win this game. If they attack Grist, then they're not going to attack Grist. They're going to attack our face because that's the correct thing to do here. So we have to trade off here. Otherwise, we're going to lose the game. And we just need to dodge burn spells for a little bit. So we can make a 1/1 and equip it. It's not the fastest amount of life gain though. Smallpox is not the most castable spell I've ever seen. So we can play this one out. We can play out the Liliana here. Black. Black. 1. We can equip this to our little guy. We can... like, the Smallpox isn't really doing it for us right now. Neither is the Nurturing Peatland though. Let's go to the Peatland. Our opponent didn't play a land last... oh, okay, they're just sandbagging lands for the Crucible, I think. Any burn spell. An Ancient Tomb. Oh no, is this another Breya's? It is. Okay. That's somewhat problematic for us. We've got 2 cards in hand. We have to make a pretty weird play here, I think. So we go... make them sacrifice a guy. They might sacrifice their Apprentice here because the Thopter is unblockable from where we sit right now. They did not. Okay, that's interesting. So this attacks. Sure, we make another token here. We go attacks. Like if they have a burn spell, they'll kill our creature or us anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So we attack here to gain 1 life. And then how scared of... then we're going to equip this guy. The question is, how scared of this Breya's Apprentice finding them good stuff are we? And I think the answer is very scared. So I think we're going to cast this and go to 1. Because if this finds them a burn spell, we lose the game. One of our lands has to go. It can be one of the colourless ones. Our opponent doesn't care about that side of the equation. We've used all our Planeswalkers. Let's pass. So that Breya basically represents another card every single turn. Alright, they have a lightning bolt there. GG's opponent. Yeah, that matchup felt tricky. Sorry you missed the first game on there with the recording, but I think you can see quite clearly how it's going to be problematic for us. So, you know, Retrofitter Foundry can just keep churning out guys. They've got basic lands in their deck which help. They got Crucible, which we didn't see in game 1, which is quite potent as well. And Smallpox isn't going to clear their board very well. It's just a lot of things that are problematic. And they can also burn us to the face, so we can't really interact with the burn spells. So, yeah, a bit of a tough one. Maybe we need more Artifact Hate in the sideboard. But we are 0-1. So we have to win out from here to get our double money. Let's see if we can do it, though. Right, we're on the play for round 2. Our opponent's a 81 card deck with a Yorion. Our hand looks like a Pox hand, so we're going to give this a whirl. We kind of have to be careful about how we're smallpoxing here, though. Because what can we actually spare in terms of our resources? Then we jam a Swamp because that can't be wastelanded. I don't think we just fire off a Raven's Crime. I think we're probably going to be discarding this Raven's Crime to a Smallpox. We kind of want to sack our Ghost Quarter to a Smallpox down the line as well. So we have a Bowmasters, so we can probably do something good with that in the near future. What are we looking for here? I think maybe we just play out this Saga here, get our Bowmasters going, and then we can just start making constructs. And then we can see what our opponent's up to. They could be on like a fair deck, or they could be an unfair Yorion deck. So they could be some sort of breakfast or weird Doomsday build. Could be like Yorion Vial. Stoneforge Mystic. Interesting. Okay. Not what I was expecting from our opponent, to be honest. Shuko. Okay, yeah, so they are an unfair deck. They're a breakfast deck. I see. So we have to jam this into play now, I think. Grist. So we want to kill this... we don't really want to kill the Stoneforge that much, is the issue. We do want to strip our opponent's lands because they can need 3 mana to win. So we probably have to cast this Smallpox this turn, which is not great. I think we probably sacrifice a Swamp so we can get the Urza Saga to pop off here. Alright, here we go. So we're discarding the Raven's Crime. Our opponent discarding a Dread Return. Okay, that's one they wanted in their graveyard. Our opponent shouldn't be able to combo this turn. And then we get to attack our opponent for 1. And then next turn we can make Grist and Raven's Crime our opponent, but they got so many cards in hand, I don't think that's going to be great for us. Okay, so they have a Bowmaster of their own, which is going to take ours out and make our Grist significantly worse. Because now we're not the ones who are ahead. Alright, the Liliana of the Veil, not the most exciting. I think we get a Mox Diamond, pitch the Ghost Quarter. And we can play a Grief either way. Or we can get the currency converter and start getting some value going. Depends how long we think this game is actually going to last. If I think our opponent's going to combo us, then I think we're just done for. It's Bayou. So if we play this Liliana this turn, we can get some treasure going for next turn. Or we can play the Grist, make a 1-1. I think the Grist is probably better here. I'm just kind of in this awkward spot of our opponent having a combo available to them. Because we know they've got the Shuko. I just don't think we win if they have the combo in hand anyway. Making them discard 1 card doesn't matter when they only need 2 cards and they got 5 in hand. So they can just discard the other thing. They just need land and their 2 combo pieces. So they've basically got... Right now they've got 3 spare cards kicking around. They don't really need to win the game with. A Ponder. Sure. So they're not dead this turn. They can play the Shuko, attach it, and swing. But we will be trading the insect off here to keep our Grist healthy. Right, so now their Bowboys has got a Shuko. So a Crack of the Misty Rainforest for a white source. What do we reckon? A Ponder. Nothing. So it feels like they might be holding up a Plough then. Crop Rotation. That's kind of interesting because that can mess with our opponent's combo in the form of Bojuka Bog. If our opponent had the combo, they would have comboed last turn, I believe. So, but if we play the Liliana and we plus it, that doesn't get us anywhere. I think we're supposed to play the Liliana minus and fade a turn because they didn't have it this turn. Although they cast a Ponder, maybe they were looking for the land and they do have it. That's a tough one. All right, let's play this Ghost Quarter. So we can loot with our currency converter, but that will trigger an Orcish Bowmasters ping. But we have a spicy little Crop Rotation, which can get a Bojuka Bog and mess our opponent's combo up potentially. And then if we draw a mana source, we can go anyway. There is a set of illusions. Okay, so we're right to make the play we did there. Alright, let's keep going and see how far. When they get to a Cabal Therapy, I suspect they're going to ping us. Sacrifice their Bowmasters to do it. But we get a look at their deck. Got an orange chant over there. I don't think they're really expecting us to have much here. And there's one Force of Will. I'd like to see all of the Force of Wills. I feel a lot safer about this play we're about to make. There's a second Force of Will. Okay. They haven't found the Cabal Therapy yet to take our hand apart. A March of Otherworldly Light in the main deck. That's interesting. Right, so they found their first Narcomoeba. There's a third Force of Will. Okay. 30 cards left in their deck. There's the Cabal Therapy. So we'll see what our opponent does there. The Dread Return is in their graveyard. So if we cast a Crop Rotation, we will take out the Dread Return, which should hopefully stop their combo dead. In an ideal world, they'll just mill their whole library out here, and then our Crop Rotation will win us the game. But there is a fourth Force of Will unaccounted for right now. There's another Cabal Therapy. There's another Narcomoeba. Now are they going to fire for Therapy? What would they name is the question. I think they might name Crop Rotation if they point one us. Alright. So there's the last Narcomoeba that they need. I wonder if this list runs 4 Narcomoebas because it's got 80 cards. There's 2 more activations and they have no cards left in the library. We still haven't seen the Force of Will. So there's 4 cards in their hand, 6 cards in their library. Okay. Okay, so the last Force of Will is in their hand. So we don't get to do this. Hold on a second. Let's have a look. Did I not see a Thassa's Oracle in there? Flashbacking Cabal Therapy to target themselves. So we're going to see their hand because this is revealed. So kind of hoping they don't have a blue card and a Force of Will in their hand. They have a lot of blue cards. So our Crop Rotation will not save us right now. Do we want to show our opponent the Crop Rotation when we can't beat this because we know about the Force of Will? Now we know they have blue cards, we don't have to do that, that's fine. Yep, bit awkward. Combo not necessarily the best of times for us. Grafdigger's Cage. Our Graveyard Haste looks pretty reasonable here. Dark Blast also looks pretty reasonable. Cursed Totem stops one of their things. Pithing Needle stops one of their things. So these are options here. How useful are they? I'm not convinced. But I don't think this is a Basilisk Collar matchup, so we can get rid of that. Crop Rotations are okay here. The Retrofitters allow us to hold up mana and then kind of do our own thing, so that's quite nice. We want to shred our opponent's hand with Raven's Crime. We do need to keep our wing conditions really, and then the Grist. And the Liliana does also do some pretty useful things too. Maze of Ith can stop the Cauldron beatdown plan. Are we that worried about that when we have all like Liliana and the Smallpox to kill it as well? I don't think so. I don't think we're boarding any of these out there. Okay. So, if we're not putting these in, we need to find 3 cuts. Wasteland locking our opponent is a viable strategy in this matchup. I don't think we need the currency converter here. And then what are we looking at? Hand Disruption in Hymns Tourach and Thoughtseize seems like a must here. Maybe it's the rituals, to be honest. Like, what are we ramping out at the end of the day? We can maybe ramp out a Liliana. That's kind of okay. I'm not convinced. Would we rather swap that ritual for something else, like the currency converter coming back in, maybe? Or we could have a Pithing Needle that we could potentially find to stop. I guess if we bring in Cursed Totem, that covers... Yeah, this will cover their Stoneforge as well as their Nomads and Core. So I don't mind that. I don't think we want 2 of them. I think the other things we've got are just better here. You can double up on a Dark Blast to kill a Stoneforge as well. You fire it off in the upkeep, dredge it, and then fire it off again. You've got a Cabal Pit, which can kill their combo creatures. This hand does not play Magic the Gathering. This hand does play Magic the Gathering. Let me keep this, and it's kind of tricky to say which one we want to get rid of most here. I think it might be the Mox. But if we keep the Mox, this is a 2-for-1, we're already down on a mulligan, and then we're going to be Smallpoxing ourselves. I think we get rid of the Mox here. Are we just Ravens crying our opponent out the gate? If so, what mana are we doing it on? Probably is fine to do with the Bayou. Although I'd rather sacrifice a Swamp if we're going to be doing that necessarily. We might find another black source. I think we lead out on the... Yeah, I think we lead out on the Bayou. Let's just start this whole train going. I suspect our opponent doesn't care about this a great deal. But if we can find life from Loam, We'll be cooking with gas. A Mystic Sanctuary. Okay. Which kind of is an annoying one. An Entomb, though, that's a very good draw for us. Alright. Let's pass the turn. We have Entomb and Wasteland available. I imagine our opponent's going to be playing on basics for as much as they can. Let's go for this Entomb. Are we getting Life from a Loam for the Wasteland lock when our opponent can? But our opponent has the ability to fetch basics here. This can't fetch them a white source, but they might not need a white source if they just got Cephalid Illusionist and Shuko. Let's see what they get here. Okay, if they get a basic, then we probably get Dark Blast here. Oh, they're Force of Willing it. Okay. Thoughtseize. That's probably going to be more powerful than trying to Smallpox here. So let's crack one of these off. So Cephalid Illusionist, Stoneforge Mystic, March of Otherworldly Light. Interesting. I think we probably just have to take the Illusionist. And then they're going to play out the March of Otherworldly Light here. So I think we're going to play out this Swamp. Our plan is to sacrifice our Wasteland and discard our Wasteland to the Smallpox next turn to clean up the Stoneforge Mystic. The problem therein lies that we don't have a way of closing this game or pushing ourselves further forward. Do they have the Cauldron? I think this is a situation where we probably just get the Cauldron if they have it. Jitte, that's interesting. Okay. Nurturing Peatland. Alright, Smallpox, let's do the thing. This Wasteland and this other Wasteland. We'll keep our Nurturing Peatland, I think. We had an option of floating mana, so we could maybe play our Peatland and sack it. But we have a lot of good 3-mana plays in our deck, like Liliana and Grist. So I didn't really want to sacrifice a land and not be guaranteed to have a mana source. Alright, they found Tundra just after we got rid of our Wastelands. Right, they're putting Euro into hand. Alright. This is what we'd like to see. A bit of the old Life from a Loam Wasteland shenanigans. So we will Wasteland this. And we will retrace this. Get rid of our opponents. Yorion. That's the one we expected to go because obviously our opponent's a long way from 5 mana. So we can strip our opponent's hand in the very near future. Nomad's Encore. And a land. Not playing out the Jitte here is interesting. Let's dredge this. We're going to pop our graveyard out permanently here so we can see what we're doing. So we want Wasteland, Wasteland. Actually, no, we don't want 2 Wastelands. I think we want the Saga and the Delta here. So I think we want to Raven's Crime our opponent, discarding the Polluted Delta. Then we'll play our Urza Saga, so we've actually got a win condition now. But our opponent can just draw the win here, right? If they draw a Cephalid Illusionist, that is game over. But we do have Grafdigger's Cage coming out of our Saga in a couple of turns, so we don't have to fade a lot of turns. But they can brainstorm or ponder into it and still have enough mana to combo. Right, a Caracas. That's fine. That's something we can Wasteland as well. I'm going to take 1 here. So we want 2 mana for the Saga activation. And just fire off the Wasteland. Yeah. So we can Dredge Life from Loam, but we're not going to cast it this turn. We jam this. Just keep our opponent's resources down. And start making some guys. Alright. I think we are in a reasonable spot here. Okay. No Cephalid there. So they want to trade their combo piece for our disposable Saga token. The answer is no. So we're going to create a construct, untap. We're going to create another construct. Then we're going to get Grafdigger's Cage to shut their combo off here. They're fetching in response because we could Pithing Needle them. I imagine we're going to see a basic here. Alright, they're leaving 1 there. Interesting. I want the Grafdigger's Cage. That will shut off their combo. We can play this. We would like this Urza Saga, this Wasteland, and this Cabal Pit, please. Green. And 1. Go attacks. Alright, I think we are going to win this game as it stands. Our opponent's going to need a lot to come back from where they're at. And they can't keep cards in hand at any point because we'll just crime them. And any non-basic lands just get wastelanded. So they're in a bit of a bind. Alright, so we got a game win. Do we want to do anything differently? I'm not convinced we do. We saw the Jitte. Does that change anything? I don't think so. Cursed Totem is kind of interesting though. It does shut some things down. We could just board in Cursed Totem and Pithing Needle and just say we're not dying to that side of things. But it's a case of how do we fit these things in? We could always just strip out these crop rotations, although they're really handy, but against a blue deck they could probably come back to bite us a little bit. Let's say we get rid of those and just have loads of stuff to say we're not losing to your combo. And try that. Yeah, I think this one plays. We've got some graveyard hate. We've got a Bowmasters. We've got a nice totem. This one seems fine. I'm not super like enthused about it. But, oh, our opponent's mulligan to 5. That makes it a lot more difficult for our opponent to combo with counterspell backup. Because we haven't seen dazes from them yet, it's just forces. So our Cling to Dust might be very good here. So we have a choice here. We can play out the Saga and start taking down to Grafdigger's Cage. Or we can play this out, hold up Cling to Dust and Dark Blast, which is what we're doing, I think. So they just play out any one guy, we can... Okay, so we can nab this guy pretty quickly. So we're going to crack this off, get Bayou. I love Dark Blast so much. Big fan of Dark Blast. I will dredge this Dark Blast. I think I'd rather have this in hand. We found a Loam and a Raven's Crime. We are in a pretty good position here. But it feels like our opponent might have the ability to go again if they're just smashing that one out. We could Wasteland our opponent so they can't do that. Let's Wasteland our opponent here. Now we have the ability to Loam and start getting things going that way. Alright, they didn't make a second land up, so we're not dead on their next turn at all. So we can just Loam here. Take a turn off. And just invest in having a better turn next turn. So we take Wasteland, Saga, and a Black Source. Alright, so now we go to clean up. One of these cards has got to go from our hand. Honestly difficult to say here. I think it might be the Saga because we already have a Saga up and running. If we had an Urborg, I'd keep the lands and just drain our opponent out with the Raven's Crime. Our opponent needs to find lands and their combo pieces. They shuffled their library. And no mana source. Alright, we got the match win there. So we did our Pox thing really there. We ground our opponent down, but they started on diminished resources of 5 cards. But we have some useful tools for this, for sure. I really like the Dark Blast. It's very good against this sort of matchup. The Bowmasters are also pretty useful too, but I think it was better for us to just cut out their mana there. But yeah, Wasteland locking people is good. The Smallpox side, the actual card Smallpox is, you know, it did some stuff in the previous game a little bit, but it's not the more effective side of the deck in my opinion. I think the Life of the Loam engine is the best thing in our deck. But Smallpox can sometimes get the job done. Let's go to round 3. The dream for the double money is still on. So our opening hand for round 3 does not really play Magic. We don't have access to any of our spells here. So we're going to have to mulligan this one. Yikes. We are on the draw. Yuck. Not a big fan of this one. But on the draw, if we find another land, then we're okay-ish. We might just be able to ruin our opponent's day with Raven's Crime, him to Tourach. Against my judgment a little bit, we're going to do it this way. Our opponent didn't play anything in their first main phase, but they've just told us that they're redoing their settings. They've got that bug where they have to keep reinstalling, which is quite common at the moment. Okay, Wood of Foothills. Chrome Mox. Alright. What flavour of Chrome Mox deck are we? Could be Initiative. Craterhoof Behemoth. Alright. What is this? These are not cards you often see together. Okay. It's a Fiend Artisan deck with... Okay. Yeah. Alright, so we found a land. So, I think we go... Dark Ritual. We cast the Bowmasters first, because we don't want our opponents to put a creature card into their graveyard to make their Fiend Artisan survive our Bowmasters. So we'll ping this off, and then we'll crime our opponent. An Endurance. Okay. So our opponent's down to 2 cards. We can him to Tourach them next turn, depending on what gets put into play this turn. Alright, looks like we've got play. Could be something like a Green Sun Zenith, which can then find them a Fiend Artisan, which we can then Smallpox away. A Grist the Hunger Tide. It's a kind of annoying one for us. Planeswalkers historically pretty good against Pox. And there's a Saga. So we can him to Tourach away our opponent's last card. But we're in a spot of bother here. We can Smallpox, take out one of our opponent's lands, take out their insect token. But then what are we doing ourselves? So next turn our mana spoken for. Do we want to cast Hymn to Tourach now as a 1/1? I think it's worth doing here. Because our mana spoken for. Alright, Ignoble Hierarch, not that exciting. Would I trade this Orc army for this insect token? Yes, I would. Would our opponent? Let's find out. If we can keep their tokens down, then it means our Saga's going to be able to bash at their Grist a lot more effectively. Yep, making a guy. Showing us natural order. As soon as we saw the Crate Hoof under the Mox, we knew they were going to be running that. Okay, so we get to start doing some Saga stuff here. Have a Wasteland, but I don't care about this Cradle right now, which is a bit of a privileged position. But I think I want to leverage this Saga for value, so we're going to pass a turn here and then start making constructs. Will I trade this Bowmasters for this Grist? For this insect token? I think I would, because this means they can't natural order next turn. Well, they're going for it. Interesting. Well, they can natural order with the Grist, actually. But they can't minus the Grist to kill our Bowmasters or whatever. Alright, so they're making a 1/1. Let's make ourselves a construct. Over to us. Our Saga ticks up. We make a construct. This pops off. And we have some choices here. Are we looking for currency converter or are we looking for retrofitters? I don't think Basilisk Collar is that important right now. I think I'd rather have the retrofitters. Sure, let's have this. Important to note, our Saga can Dark Ritual out to activate our retrofit. So this is a time where having the Shadow Spear in our deck would be better than the Basilisk Collar. Right, so we'll attack the Grist. This is going to chump block. Snuffing out our guy for mana. Okay. So now we're looking at thinking, well, we want to think about whether or not we want to use our Wasteland as Cradle, because they're going to get a second insect, I suspect, here. They might mine us and just kill our construct. But I think their plan here is just to keep plussing the Grist until it can dome us for a bunch. They probably have some utility in their graveyard as well. It makes all their Fiend Artisans better. They probably have Round Up Excavator, which can then rebuy all these lands. Right, they're going for the minus on our thing, because they don't know that we're going to activate this Retrofitter Foundry here. Now, if they have a follow-up threat, that'd be irritating. But they don't here. Okay, let's go for Dark Ritual. Let's make a guy. Not the most exciting Dark Ritual you've ever seen in your life, but an Urborg, that's an interesting one. Alright, so we're going to get this ability on the Saga. The Urborg is real annoying if we want to use our Wasteland now, though. So I could tap this, play this, make our construct now. Let's attack Grist, see if we can get that damage in. Okay, so I think we're going to go do this. Activate Saga. Do we want to Wasteland? We can't Wasteland our opponent off black because we have an Urborg in play. We could Wasteland their Cradle. We could just Wasteland their Bayou anyway, as that would leave them with 2 mana producing sources right now. But the Cradle was going to make more mana with the Grist. So I think the problem with this is this takes us off as a Saga activation mana. So it's kind of our deck with a bunch of lands in is struggling a little bit to have enough lands in play. Which is kind of what Smallpox does sometimes too. Elvish Reclaimer. Okay, so we have this covered. Now we don't have it covered. Okay, interesting. So I think our plan here is, well, we'll see what we draw and see if that changes what we want to do. A Verdant Catacombs. This does tap for black mana. But if we make this construct, we can't cast a Smallpox. So I think we have to float black and then get an artifact here. If we get a Mox, we immediately discard this Verdant Catacombs. It's kind of doing the same thing it's already doing, which isn't that exciting. If we get a Basilisk Collar, I really think that's the most important thing we can be doing. Either we get a currency converter, then we fire off this Smallpox. We're not going to have the land in hand anyway at that point, so that's not really going to matter either. Yeah, I kind of wish I had a Shadow Spear. I think it's the Mox here. We might as well have a land that pumps our guys. We could just reduce things to the Stone Age here, if we so fancied. So we've got this 1 black mana floating. We don't actually need this black mana right now. We're going to attacks here with our construct on the Grist. So we could take out our opponent's black source and then Smallpox get rid of our servo token. That'll leave us with just a Mox Diamond for mana. But our opponent will have not a lot of mana themselves. I don't think we can let this untap, so we have to cast Smallpox. It's a case of, would I rather sack this Wasteland, or would I like to just put our opponent in the dirt? Kind of want to put our opponent in the dirt, but Grist is such a beating. It is a tough one, isn't it? I think we have to keep our Urborg. Or we could sack our Urborg here and leave the Wasteland, and then we can make decisions after we see what they sacrifice. Right, so we'll sacrifice our 1/1. They'll lose their Reclaimer. We'll sacrifice the Urborg. See what they sacrifice here. Because in a heads-up thing, the Grist will beat our construct. So we're going to need some mana to fuel into this Retrofitters, or we're going to need... So we can take our opponent off of black completely, and this will just keep plussing whilst this attacks. And if we find a second mana source, then we're away. If we don't find a second mana source before they find a spell for 2 mana, then we're kind of toast. So I think we aren't supposed to Wasteland here. If we draw a land next turn, then we can Wasteland, but don't think it's a great idea. Okay, Delighted Halfling. Yeah, so if we'd have Wastelanded now, we'd be a million miles behind. Like, we are still behind, but we'd be absolutely in the dirt. Okay, so we found a land. Let's go to attacks. We have to attack Grist. They're going to block with the insect token. Okay, we do get to start making some Thopters soon, and that will help. Bojuka Bog, pretty good, truth be told. It's taking out our crime and taking out a good selection of lands, so Life of a Loam, no longer a great draw. But maybe this Retrofitters can do the things it needs to do here. Him to Tourach, not the one. Combat here. Attack the Grist. Yep. So if we Wasteland our opponent's Bayou, they can still natural order next turn anyway. Whereas if we get more mana, we might be able to do some better stuff with our Retrofitters. We need to watch our clock a little bit as well. These games are going to be quite long, and we are behind. Orcish Bowmasters, sure. This should go at our face, not our servo, because we're going to sacrifice this for a Thopter anyway. Interesting timing on this, because I think we're always sacking this at end of turn. This should go to our face. And going on to the servo, interesting. So this cancels our opponent's Bowmaster's ability, so they won't get the 1/1 either. That's why I think it's supposed to go to the face, or hold it until their end step when we do something and then do something in response. But they have just put more bodies in play, which is more things between us and that Grist, which is becoming increasingly problematic for us. A Dark Ritual. What is that realistically doing for us here? Not a lot. So send both of these at Grist. So we're going to have Grist on a stable amount, but it is a very high amount here. So we can use this Dark Ritual to make a servo and then untap our Retrofitters and make a 4/4. And that will be not unhelpful. Right, let's have a 4/4. Let's cast Dark Ritual. Untap this. Let's make a servo. And there's a Saga. That's a pretty real card. Let's jam that down. Attack Grist. Attack Grist. So 2 things have to go under the bus here if they want to keep Grist loyalty high. And hopefully we can just survive long enough. They're still going to have an Atraxa in their deck, but their other big hit of the Crate Hoof's already gone. I wonder if they're just going to take the 4 on the Grist here. Looks like they are. We can't keep them off natural order, so I don't think there's any point. We did have a choice of potentially hemming our opponent to take that 1 card. But I think that's going to be more important to do on the turn we're attacking with our Thopter in case to make sure there's no endurance. So doing a +1 with the Grist. That's what our opponent's got so far. Alright. So what are we doing next turn? We're making a Saga. So we're making a servo this turn, or are we making a Thopter? I think we make a Thopter here. Another Saga. So we can play this one out. Let's take that card out of our opponent's hand there. Without him. It was an Atraxa. Okay. We can go attacks. So natural order doesn't even seem like a great draw right now. But we're still just trying to get this Grist down. Once we get the Grist down, I think this game should be relatively okay for us to win. It's a case of can we win another game in the time left? Because it's a real slog. But we are just amassing so many creatures now. Now we're going to have a bunch of constructs. We're going to have a 4/4 from the Retrofitter Foundry. Our mana's spoken for, so we're not going to be firing off a Wasteland. I don't think that's really going to work for us. I think one of the most important turns we've had this game was probably the turn we Smallpox and kept our Wasteland. And that's proven to be quite important. moment for us there. Alright, so let's make a big guy. Let's make another big guy. So we've got the Grist gone now. We can just smash our opponent's face in with our giant constructs. Let's make a big guy. I guess we can get Basilisk Collar. I don't think that's really that important right now. I think we just want more bodies. Let's go attacks. So block 3 of these, take 4. They're going to get Dryad Arbor to chump block with here. I'm just going to go get a Bayou now. And then we'll let this damage go through. And then in our opponent's end step, we're going to make a Saga construct. And then we should be... Alright, so we got the win there. Our opponent didn't make us do the last few clicks, but pretty good. So, how are we supposed to beat this deck? I think Dark Blast is going to be useful. I think Cursed Totem is going to be very useful, and this is basically the matchup it's for. I don't think Run Afoul just for a Traxxas is worth doing. I don't want to Pithing Needle Grist because we've got our own Grists, and they're actually really good in this matchup. So, Grafdigger's Cage stops Natural Order and Green Sun Zenith. So I think we're looking at these 4 cards. I'm not in love with the sort of currency converter. I'm not a big fan of. The Bowmasters is okay, but not great. The Smallpox is actually kind of one of the weaker cards in this matchup, I think. Our opponent could just play a load of mana dog. I think it's okay, but I don't think it's necessarily want to be. Maybe we'll drop a Thoughtseize. Basilisk Collar, if that was a Saddest, but I think we'd have been a lot better off. The Boseiju can take out stuff like a guy's Cradle. Retrofitters obviously won us that game, and I think it's going to be really important because 1/1s are actually pretty useful in this matchup. So we just need to find one more card. It's probably going to be a crop rotation, I think. Sometimes a crop rotation with Bojuka Bog can be really good against like a Fiend Artisan doing a big swing or whatever, or stopping a Ramnap Excavator, Wasteland locking us. I think this is where we want to be. I like Cursed Totem a lot here. A lot. I'm going to try it. If it goes horribly wrong, we need to concede with enough time to actually win the game. So we just need to F6 our opponent's turn as much as possible. My opponent's got a Once Upon a Time going off here. Big fan of Cursed Totem. A Cradle. Okay. It's a good one. I've delighted Halfling. Okay. Is there some sort of thing we want to get with this crop? Bojuka Bog or a Maze of Ith or something? I don't think so. But I don't think it matters if we hold it up. Because it's playing this Basilisk Collar out doesn't actually feel that amazing. It doesn't seem that potent. A Thoughtseize. That's interesting. Okay, we're going to lose the Cursed Totem here, unfortunately. Cursed Totem, very good against these decks. Shuts down their Mana Dorks, shuts down their Fiend Artisan, shuts down their Elvish Reclaimer. Just does it all. Yep, there it goes. This is the exact sort of matchup that it's in there for. And usually when I play in paper, my opponent's reading it and they haven't even seen it before. Right, there's the Cradle we knew about. They know about this crop rotation we have. So they're unlikely to play into it. Okay, Collector Reef is fine. It's not really what we're all about right now. A Wasteland. Wastelanding here doesn't feel amazing. I think we want to play this Marsh Flats. And then we're going to get ourselves a couple of Bayous. And then just get this going for later. Just a cheeky draw 2. And move on with our lives. So we have all of our land drops set up for the foreseeable future. We have plenty of food for Liliana to discard. We're not in a position where we care about Collector Roof. They could natural order this turn. But if they'd have had any land, they could have natural ordered anyway. Okay, so there's a Collector Roof. I don't think they have a natural order in hand. I think you would just spark that off straight away. I'm going to take 1 from the Halfling, sure. So they know we have a Liliana here. We will not dredge that just yet. I think we want to get the Liliana ticking. And then we can wasteland our opponent out of some stuff here. Let's get this going. Each player discards a card. I will discard one of our fetch lands. See what our opponent's working with. Mox. Okay, so they can attack our Liliana with all of their guys and kill it. But we get to start wastelanding our opponent now. I think next turn is the turn they can Green Suns for a Traxxas. Yep, so these will come in at Liliana. And now we start wastelanding our opponent's stuff. Do we need this Life from Loam just yet? Oh, that's an interesting one, isn't it? I think we are just going to wasteland our opponent's Cradle and start making constructs. Next time we can make a construct using our Dark Ritual so that we can also life them alone Wasteland. We need our opponent to not do anything too scary for a few turns. Okay, Once Upon a Time is quite expensive as a play. They found a land, okay. Our next Wasteland gets pointed at the Dryad Arbor. I think they attack with the Oof here. Okay, they attack with both because of the 1-2. Yep, that's fine. There you go. I'll take this now. And we will go for this Dark Ritual. So we can activate this. We'll go and get an artifact. Grafdigger's Cage is a pretty good one here. And then we can cast this Life from Loam, targeting Wasteland, Wasteland, and as a Saga. Then I think we get this Saga running before we start Wastelanding again. We've covered off Green Sun Zenith and Natural Order Roots. Let's just get some damage going. We've got 8 minutes to try and win this game. Right, they got another Dryad Arbor here? No. Grist the Hunger Tide. Very good card. But we have a lot of Sagas coming down the pipeline. We will not dredge this yet. Alright, we'll draw another Saga, sure. So our opponent's got one card in hand here. I don't think that's going to be too much as you take out this Dryad Arbor. Go attacks. Then we do have to come at the Grist here. They can quadruple block on one of them, but that's fine by me. And we're... Oh! We passed priority. We're supposed to make a construct there, so we killed the Grist. But now we're just giving them another turn of having a Grist in play. Trying to play quickly to keep our clock in mind. And we've made a somewhat significant error there. Opponent does seem really scared of our artifacts, which is interesting. Let's make one of these. We get a Retrofitter Foundry, it's fine here. And then we go to attacks. All creatures at Grist. Okay, so we're going to take the Grist out here. I'm going to play our Saga, and get that running, and pass the turn. Our graveyard popped out. So we don't have anything to do in our opponent's turn here, so we can F6 through it and save some time. Another land from our opponent, but we have Natural Order covered, and Green Sun Zenith covered. And we've got, what, 28 power coming at our opponent next turn. So they have to block 2 of them. They have to block 3 of them. Alright, okay, we got the match there. We did make one little misclick there because we were playing rushed because we didn't want our clock to go down too quickly. But it didn't matter in the end. This felt right. I was a bit worried about some of the things our opponent could have here. Like Grist is quite a good stalling tactic, but just once you get the Loam engine going with as a Saga, it's so strong. Alright, we are still live for the double money, so let's go to round 4. We got a weird one. Sure, I'm down for Retrofitter Foundry. It's been one of the best cards for us so far. So we're going to begin with Wasteland into Retrofitters here. A mountain, okay. An Ether Vial. Okay, so Smallpox not great versus Ether Vials, to be honest. We've got some mana here, haven't we? Guess we'll play out this. I'm just trying to think. If we play out this Urborg, we can go 4 mana. Doesn't really do anything for us. Sure, we just play out Wasteland, keep our opponent in the dark about what we're doing. Ether Vial Mountain start as well as looking what I would imagine to be goblins. Richardam Port, that's also a very goblin-oriented card there. Let's make a guy. Does our opponent want to tap us down? They do. This will hit their Richardam Port. Liliana of the Veil, that's an interesting one. I think we jam this one out, cast a Dark Ritual, get Liliana of the Veil into play. And then we will, each player discards a card. I'm not going to attack this server in case they put in a Lackey with the Ether Vial. We don't just want to get ruined that way. I think in terms of lands in terms of cards we're looking to discard here, I think the Bojuka Bog is not really great in this matchup. I don't really want to come to play tap land. Smallpox might be able to take something out. Dark Ritual can enable other plays. We could attack for 1 here and then make a Thopter token to block with, but I think it's better to save this. Let's give ourselves a cleaner one. Alright, Skirk Prospector. So they discarded a Goblin Lackey because we kept the server token back. A Wasteland. Okay. They're going to Wasteland our Urborg. Understood. A little bit mean. Let's make a Thopter, which can become a 4/4 next turn. Are we trying to remove our opponent's creature here? We can Ghost Quarter ourselves, get a Black Source to then cast Smallpox, but I don't feel that's where I want to be. I think we're on the... Each player discards a card, and I'm probably going to get rid of Smallpox here. My opponent's going to have a lot of creatures in the near future, so... Pile driver. Okay. We've got land, so we can activate our Retrofitter Foundry if we want to. We can attack with our Thoughteize. We need to watch out for the Munitions Expert, which is the flash guy that deals damage equal to the number of goblins that comes into play. Okay, it's on 3 now, so we don't have to worry about that. There's a Scalding Tarn from our opponent. If they fetch a non-basic, we might get to see if they're on the red or the black build. Sorry, the green or the black build to go along with red. So you have like the food chainy ones, and you have sort of classic Badlands goblins. I don't believe the unglued stuff is live yet online. Let's make a 4/4. No sting scores you can come out of the Ith of Island 3 either. So that's pretty handy. We've got a mana source here. Are we making them discard cards here? Are we going to attack first, I think? Do I want to get rid of one of these creatures? I think so. Let's get rid of this prospect. So they might have something coming off the Ith of Isle. So they might have something they think is less useful. Let's get Prospector, like a Goblin Matron, for example. Goblin Ringleader. That's a hasty guy. Sure. So this is going to be the Ringleader that we saw. They're going to gas right up. Oh, no, they're not. That's a very stinky one there. You hate to see it. I am playing for double money, so... So these are both probably coming at Liliana, or just the one? Honestly, I'm okay with it, with Liliana taking 2 here. I think we need to get creatures and try and get this game won while Liliana drains their hand. I think that's the way we're going to win this game. It feels like they need some gas over there, and they certainly did not have it then. So if this pluses, so we make 1/2 to make another guy, 3 to untap it. Doesn't really work amazingly for us, does it? So let's just attack. We could use this Dark Ritual right now. So we could go 3 mana for 5. So we could make a thing and untap it. That doesn't really get us anywhere. We could pay 1 to turn this into a thingy, and then 3 to untap it. That's probably good enough here, isn't it? So we go Dark Ritual. Let's create a Thopter, and then we'll untap this. And then we can make our opponent discard a card. A Richard and Port. Okay, so now we get to get another 4/4 into play. Start this whole little merry jig. Alright, so they're putting in another Ringleader, I imagine. Sling-Gang Lieutenant, that's a very potent one. Cursed Totem is going to be useful in this matchup. I would like a 4/4. Now, I understand that our opponent has these Sling-Gang Lieutenants, so they can block and ping, and that's annoying. But, alright, this Liliana is not a card we can cast unless we Ghost Quarter ourselves. Is that a thing we're interested in doing here? Or would we rather... So we could minus to kill a token. That's not very exciting, is it? Okay, so I think we're going to attacks first. So they're going to sack this off, and then we can Maze of Ith our guy to have a blocker. Or are we saving Maze of Ith? Sure, I think we'll save this for a blocker. There's no way that we can plus this and then plus this. So I think we are just plussing here. So we're hoping that they don't have a Muxus in hand, because then they get a lot of goblins. Because they whiffed pretty hard on the Ringleader, which means that there's a lot more goblins in their deck. Uh-oh, here it is. 6 mana. Here comes the big boy. There it is. Quite a few there. Passionate Mons being especially good here. There's a different art for Passionate Mons there. So they get to kill our Liliana here. And they get to do a Ringleadering for another Sling-Gang Lieutenant. Another Matron here. It's going to be a tough one to win now, I think. We don't have anything like Tabernacle in our deck to find either. Yep, so there's the Lackey. Our creatures are somewhat outclassed now. Yep, so we're losing our Liliana. I think we can see the Ith of Isle here. Oh, I got a Munitions Expert as well. That can just kill our guy. Yeah, I think we can pack this one in. I don't think we're winning that. Our opponents just managed to grind their way through. Yikes, that's a tough one for sure. I think Dark Blast has got some merit here for sure. I think Cursed Totem, like we said, is going to shut down all of their guys. I don't know if Pithing Needle is good enough, but Grafdigger's Cage certainly is. It stops all the Muxus putting everything into play. Pithing Needle, we didn't see Conspicuous Snoop combo, so I'm not sure if we want the Pithing Needle. Basilisk Collar looks pretty bad in this matchup, I think, because they just have lots of little guys, then one big guy. But then so many of other things look bad here. We don't have any good crop rotation targets here either. We don't have anything like a tabernacle. That would change things, I think. So I don't know if I want those. And Smallpox just doesn't look great either. Maybe we'll lose a Smallpox and keep the collar. Sure, we'll try this. Okay, we can keep this. So we have some questions to ask ourselves. Do we think leading out on a land that if it gets Wasteland we lose is a good idea? I don't think it is. I think we play out the Saga here and then we play out the collar. Like, at least if we have a Bayou, we can do something with it. Whereas the Saga on its own is not going to do a great deal. Lackey? No Lackey. Interesting. No play at all. That's very interesting. Be nice to draw a land. I feel a lot happier if we drew a land here. As long as it's not Maze of Ith. Alright, another Bowmasters. That's something we can play at least. Here's the Bayou. And we'll pass. If they play some sort of 1-1, then I can ping it down. Quite like Bowmasters in this matchup for that reason. Because we have a second Bowmasters, I will fire the first one off, I think. I'm not expecting to get extra triggers off these. They're just sort of removal spells, really. A Raven's Crime. Do I want to... Right. We get the currency converter here. We get the cage, which just stops some of their scarier things. Like the Muxus. I think we get the cage to stop Muxus here. Are we just jamming this Bowmasters? I think so. Just get some stuff going. I don't like it. The other option there is to put the Basilisk Collar on one of our guys, but that doesn't feel great either. So they could Munitions Expert and kill our Orcish army here. But I at least want some stuff in play if we're not going to draw a land. There's Munitions Expert. Just can trade with the Orc army, or I can take this Bowmasters out and block this Bowmasters. Right, I'm trading with the army. In the world of the 1-1s, the 2-2 is king. So we don't get to get Life from Loam yet. We can get the Dark Blast though. But we do need to find a second mana source. Okay, Crater Maker. That's a pretty good one. A Wasteland. So our play this turn has to be Entomb into Life from Loam. So we can't attack here. I pressed the wrong priority pass button there, didn't I? That's fun. Okay, so we're going to play this Urborg and we're going to play this Liliana. It's kind of worked out okay for us. Please lose a creature. So they've got some options here. They can ping off, kill one of our guys, or they can blow up our cage or collar. Taking out a collar, interesting. So I'm not going to flash in any guys here. So we can get a little bit of damage over there. Dead, sure. So next turn we can potentially plus the Liliana, saving up for a Blood Moon. How do we feel about Blood Moon? It's pretty hard for us to beat, truth be told. Okay. 2 swamps and some Mox Diamonds. I guess we'll play this Ghost Quarter. This comes Raven's Crime. Right, this Liliana's going to have to do a lot of work to get us over the finish line here. I feel like the dream of the double payment for this one is slipping away from us right now. Twin Shot Snipers. This will kill our Liliana. That's pretty bad news. Okay. I think we're supposed to keep that Ghost Quarter in hand as well, rather than playing it in case we drew the Mox. So we have some spells we can't cast. Interesting. The deck is pretty cold to the old Blood Moon, isn't it? Battle Cry Goblin. I'm familiar with this one. You pay 2, goblins you control, get +1/+0 and haste until end of turn. So this is actually going to be coming in for 6 this turn. And I think we're just going to have to pack this one up and unfortunately not going to be getting the old 4-1 for the old double money there. Let's see what we got here. A Dark Ritual. That does something. I think the Bowmasters might be on blocking a Goblin token mode because they're going to be attacking for 3 damage per Goblin token here. Goblin Matron. Alright, I think our opponent will have us on the next turn. Goblin Ringleader. Yep, so they get to pump their Matron. Trade with a Matron. What can we even draw here? Nothing, I believe. A Cursed Totem. Too little, too late. Alright. Yeah, we got absolutely wrecked by that Blood Moon. I think we were in an okay spot until that came down. We didn't really have that much stuff to deal with either, so maybe that's something we need in the sideboard. The dream of getting the 4-1 is done, but we can still get the 3-2 positive record, which I'll be pretty happy with. So let's go to the final round. How could I possibly resist the classic Dark Ritual Hymn Thoughtseize hand? How could I resist that? So there is a question as to what you do first. Do you do the Thoughtseize or do you do the hymn? Because they have kind of different things. So sometimes you can hymn them and then they will just have lands and then you'll be in trouble. Okay, so not showing us blue mana here. So I think we hymn first and then pick the best thing of what they have left. So we want to get a basic swamp because our opponent is showing us Blood Moon colours. So we want this. Cast a Star Ritual. Smash a hymn into their face there. We've got 2 lands. Okay, that's quite exciting. Trinisphere, Caves of Chaos Adventurer, Fable of the Mirror Breaker. Interesting. I don't mind Trinisphere coming into play that much. I'm going to take this Fable. Because we can crop rotate into a Wasteland and leave our opponent somewhat stranded. They drew a Seat of Traitors. So they're going to play the Trinisphere here. And now we're going to get killed by this Caves of Chaos Adventure, I believe. Which is awkward. A Mox Diamond that we can't cast. Right, there's our Saga. Yeah, we need our opponent not to draw a Soul Land there. Which is a mountain. And the initiative is very hard for Pox decks to beat because they don't really attack. Now we do have this Saga token. But we don't have a Shadow Spear in our deck. So, awkward. Do we need to show our opponent green? I don't think so. We can't play any of these out because of the Trinisphere. We're just going to be making a 1-1 that can at least take the initiative back. Our opponent has some very nice mountains at least. Yep, here comes the big forging. So I think our strategy is to make a 1-1, attack to get the initiative, and then crop rotate to get a Maze of Ith, and just try and win the game using our opponent's initiative, which is not great. Shatter Smashing. Yep, so in comes the beats. So if they have a creature to follow up with here, we're dead, I think. Tap Shatter. 2 mana. Chalice for 1. They can't do that because they're in Trinisphere here. They should have played their Shatter untapped if they wanted to cast a thing. So our opponent's made a little misstep here, which might give us a way to win this game. I'll take it. There is our 1-1. If we activate this, we can't do our thing. So I think we are tapping this. And we go and get the Retrofitter Foundry here. I think it's going to be quite a useful one. Then we play out this Bayou. We crop rotate. Get rid of the swamp. Get ourselves the Maze of Ith. We get attacks here. We get the initiative. We have all of our basics, so that's no good. There is a problem we have here, which is Den of the Bugbear. This can attack and do some real work, but they need to have a soul land this turn for it. Ah, they do have the soul land. Wait, what? What? That's a weird play. You just attack the Den of the Bugbear. I think you're in a better shape. Okay, fine. We're going to lose our construct. We're going to keep the initiative for another turn. This gives us a chance to find something here. Yeah, our opponent drawing these soul lands at the right time. It's been a little bit annoying for us. Maybe they'll forget about their Den of the Bugbear. Right, so we need to go down to the Lost Well. Let's do some scrying. An Orcish Bowmasters at the low cost of 3 mana provides us with 2 blockers, which is enough to block this and the Den, and ping off the 1-1. Okay. Alternatively, I don't think getting the crop rotation helps right now. We definitely want this Bowmasters. That does do... Oh wait, no, we haven't got a 3rd land actually, have we? So it doesn't do what we need it to do. Because we didn't get the land off of the initiative. So none of these cards actually do anything. We could leave the Bowmasters on top and try to draw a land next turn and hope that they don't use their Den of the Bugbear. I don't like that very much, but I think that's what we're doing. I'm going to activate their Den here. Come crashing in. Blood Moon. That's interesting. So, are we dead this turn? We block this. We take 6 from this and then 5 from trap. We are dead. Yep. Yeah, our opponent drew Soul Land twice when they needed to, which is kind of annoying. But it's going to happen sometimes. It's not, you know, they're just trying to play the game too. And they were probably very happy when they had a nice draw. So, we've certainly been in the reverse position. I don't begrudge them in any way. Do we have any useful cards in this matchup? So, Dark Blast can sometimes do some stuff against goblins, but not really. Yeah, not really liking any of our options here. I guess Pithing Needle for Den of the Bugbear is actually a relevant thing, so I'm going to have that one in there. I think that's going to be better than a Dark Blast, which can kind of keep goblins under wraps, but then you're not doing anything. You can sometimes cast it in your upkeep, dredge it, cast it again to kill a 2/2. I think our best route to doing that is going to be... Where's our best route to that? Yeah, it's going to be tough to beat that one. We don't have anything like a Plague Engineer. Smallpox looking not great in this matchup. I don't think we want to bring anything like Spheres of Resistance either. Yeah, I think we are going to have some trouble. Alright. If we had a second land, this would be nice. Sorry, a second land to put under Chrome Box. So we can him our opponent on turn 1. Okay, so our plan is, I would like to cast Grist the Hunger Tide as soon as possible. Now the issue here is, if we want to cast him on turn 1, we have to lose, we definitely have to lose our Wasteland to do that, which is awkward. But I think it's worth doing here. So I think we get a Swamp here because the Bayou isn't necessary for green because we already have the Mox. Let's him our opponent's 6-card hand and see how that fares for us. Trinisphere and a Goblin. So if we had another land, we could have made a Grist on turn 1. Hopefully we can draw a land and make a Grist on turn 2. Ancient Tomb. Chalice on 1. Chalice on 1. Okay, so our crop rotation not going to do anything this game. Life from the Loam. Yeah, I will take this Life from the Loam. I will Wasteland our opponent's Ancient Tomb. And I don't think I need to play... Actually, I probably should play this Mox out now in case our opponent has the Trinisphere or something like that. They can somehow jam into play with a Spirit Guide or whatever. Right, a basic. This means we're playing Grist this turn. We'll dredge this now for later. Just Smallpox as a Saga Bayou. Pretty good hits there. I do think Grist is just better than the other things we have available to us right now. In comes Planeswalker, up goes the Loyalty, and then we just sort of carry on with our life. If our opponent can't make a threat this turn, I think we're in really good shape. Chrome Mox is pretty good. It's not something we can Wasteland. If I go like Soul Land, Caves of Chaos Adventure, I think we lose. Or at least struggle a great deal. Fable of the Mirror Breaker. That's an interesting one. Don't really want this other Life from the Loam, do we? No, we'll take a regular draw. Right, let's have Urza Saga, Wasteland, and Bayou. I think we kill the Shaman token, or if we kill the Shaman token and make an Urza Saga, or we kill the Shaman token and Wasteland this. That's tough. That's a tough one. Or we make a 1/1 and make an Urza Saga token. Is that better than Wastelanding here? How much do I think our opponent is likely? So they're kind of on nothing with cards over there. I think we're just going to sacrifice this. Kill this guy. I kind of want to get this Urza Saga down rather than hitting this, but I think we are supposed to keep Wastelanding. Always be Wastelanding. There's the one card in their hand, a land, I think is what this comes down to. Or is it a basic land? I don't think they loot away a mountain. No, they did not loot anything away. Let's cycle this. Let's get a Life from the Loam. We don't need to change this one. Okay, so we'll plus this. Play our Urza Saga out. This is an expert, a wonderful time to get our lands going here. Green, colourless, and then we can cycle our Barren Moor if we want to as well. So we are in a good position here. Den of the Bugbear. Let's cycle this. Get Life and Loam back. Go to our turn. We don't need to dredge this one yet, do we? So 2 mana is invested in this. We want to Wasteland this. We want to minus this. Kill that guy before it can do anything scary. Start making these things. We'll make a Retrofitters here. Straight into Chalice of the Void like a clown. And then we'll pass. Alright, we've had enough of us. Alright. I like how we've sideboarded here. I don't think there's anything I want to change. Putting big scary things into play on turn 1 is nice. So let's just try and do that. Or turn 2. I guess Grist isn't the biggest, scariest thing going. But it does an incredible amount of work. And I've been very impressed with Grist lately. Right, we've got him, Life from the Loam, Urza Saga. This is how we do. We probably just lose to Blood Moon on turn 1. Opponent's mulligan to 5. I think we lead out on the swamp of the Verdant Catacombs if we're given the chance. I think the hymn is the most important thing we can do. Lay on in the void. Okay. No follow-up. Interesting. Alright, maybe they have a mountain. Sure, we're going to get 2 of our opponent's 3 cards here. So let's go and get a basic swamp, because that's going to be useful against blood moons and stuff. Our Mox Diamond comes down. I think we pitch the Bayou here. And then we hymn our opponent, hopefully into oblivion. Mountain and a Fable. Okay. We don't have access to our Life from the Loam. A Shatter Skull. Opponent's got 1 card in hand. Because we've also drawn a threat here, we can just wasteland our opponent's mana here. And then start jamming with Bowmasters and Urza Saga. And hopefully ride that to victory before our opponent can recover. Let's have a little ping to the face there. Yeah, so our hand was pretty good. Let's have this Urza Saga. Start attacking. We're going to name Den of the Bugbear. And then we can start making some constructs soon. The thing I'm scared of is the Fiery Confluence, which can blow up all our artifacts and kill all our guys. But we've got 2 artifacts in play already, so our construct's going to be pretty large. I think we have enough stuff going on now that even if our opponent finds something big, we should be okay. It's just the Fiery Confluence that beats us, I think. That's going to require additional cards to get there. Alright. Let's make a construct. Let's make another construct. Pretty large rumbling creatures over here. And what am I looking for here? Retrofitters, I think. Jam this out. We'll go to attacks. Other creatures. I think we'll cast the Start Ritual. We'll make a 1/1. That'll pump our creature. Visual point damage. We just need to get this game won. And then we can have a little look at the deck. Don't know if Soul Land Fiery... Okay, so we got there. A little bit jammy at the end because our opponent mulliganed quite aggressively there. But not too shabby. Let's talk about the deck. So before we talk about like breaking down the deck and things like that, what I should say is I should have put some artifact or enchantment hate in the sideboard. We lost to an artifact deck in the first round. Now, 2 or 3 Force of Vigors isn't going to change that matchup the way it played out. So that's not so bad. But again, we had a matchup where we would have wanted some artifact and enchantment hate at the end there. I didn't quite come to fruition for us. I don't think we can even play Force of Vigor. I think it'd have to be something like Assassin's Trophy and be relying on having a Mox Diamond and a Swamp, or 2 Mox Diamonds. So even so, it's kind of a bit awkward. But Currency Converter can make you treasures. So there is that possibility. But I think that is something I would want if I was to play this again. Sphere of Resistance didn't come up, but we weren't really playing against those sorts of decks. You know, there was no Storm type shenanigans or Creative Technique. So we kind of didn't have to worry about that. No 8 cast, which I think you probably want the Sphere of Resistance for as well, to stop them just spamming all their baubles and things out. But anyway, we didn't get to play against any of those. So obviously the spheres look bad in that situation, but I think that's just matchup based. I think we'd probably trim some Run Afoul there for ways of blowing up artifacts or enchantments would be a good idea. So, what do I think of this deck? So Pox has a real tough time because creatures are so darn efficient these days and people can play on so little mana. And there's loads of good stuff in the format that gets around it. So we're playing Bowmasters because it's 2 creatures. But everyone else is playing Bowmasters and it's 2 creatures. So the Smallpox is not doing much work there. Of course, we don't care about Bowmasters' ability because we're not really drawing extra cards. If we ever do draw extra cards, they're usually dredges, which don't count for Bowmaster pings. So we're good against Bowmasters. So that's okay. So the fact that our Smallpox doesn't catch it is not the end of the world. What I will say, though, is Smallpox just felt real awkward a lot of the time. Like, it feels hard to play Smallpox because we can quite often be on the back foot. And if we Smallpox, we could just send ourselves further back. Now, there's definitely situations where Smallpox can line up and be brilliant, for sure. But it did feel like the weakest element of the deck was the Smallpox. And we sometimes had it in hand and couldn't cast it or didn't want to cast it. And that was a bit awkward. Also, it is black, which is sometimes a little rough on the mana, right? We've got these Urborgs, but then we've got a bunch of colourless lands here. So it can sometimes be a little bit tricky to cast. I think Grist was wonderful all league. I thought Grist was very strong. Obviously, as a Saga in most decks that feature Urza Saga, it's probably the best card in your deck. And I felt that was probably the case. Actually, well, Life of Malone's probably the best card in this deck. But, you know, Urza Saga is pretty close. Obviously, Wasteland plus Life of Malone makes me very happy. So, thumbs up on that one. I do love Entomb as a thing. I've played decks with Entomb packages before. I kind of want more Entombs and like a Dark Blast in the main. So you've got some nice little options. But I think, as awkward as it is, I think the weakest part of the Pox deck is the Pox, which is not really what any Pox players want to hear. And I don't blame them because it's a cool card. I remember playing against this in Standard. A friend of mine, the first game I ever played against this friend of mine, he went turn 1, I think it was Urborg, Thoughtseize, turn 2, Flagstones of Troika, Smallpox. And then he played Tarmogoyf. I was like, yeah, that's cool. So, you know, Smallpox is a powerful thing to do. Maybe we should be trying to pair it with some things like Flagstones. Maybe that's a weird line to take. I don't know, because then we're not playing Life of Malone because we're going to be in white, and I don't know if we can play 3 colours in a deck like this because we've got so much colour. Like, you know, our third colour is colourless already. So, playing Grist feels like the right thing to do because that card is real good. You can just sort of completely control a game. So I'm not sure what I would recommend for a Pox deck to improve it. What I will say is we got in numerous situations where I wanted Shadow Spear instead of Basilisk Collar. Now, we mentioned this at the top about why it's useful. How if we're making 1/1s with Grist and stuff like that, or making 1/1s with Retrofitters, having them trade up is really good. But it just never really worked out. And we definitely could have lost the game where our opponent had Grist for ages. If we had the Shadow Spear, that would not have been an issue because we'd have been able to trample over and just kill the Grist more readily. So there is that sort of element going on. I also think these Dark Rituals, on occasion, were okay, for sure. But part of me was thinking maybe we should have another Mox Diamond and 2 more lands. I wouldn't mind seeing more lands. Like, we've got stuff to do with our mana, right? You know, we've got these Life from Lanes, we've got these Retrofitter Foundry. We'd even play something like an Exploration, so that when we're Life from the Lane, we're getting more value. But then the more we sort of go into that sort of plan, we're just becoming a green-black lands deck instead of a Smallpox deck. So I'm not really sure how to best build Smallpox, which is kind of why you don't see a lot of it, because it doesn't line up great against what a lot of people in the format are doing. And it can sometimes sort of hamstring your own game plan a little bit. So I'm not really sure what the correct answer is. Maybe there's other ways that we can mitigate the downside. So maybe we want to be like a Chrome Mox Diamond deck. Or, you know, play a deck where we're not even sacrificing a land to Smallpox. Maybe that's something that's possible with like more artifact stuff going on. I don't know. Maybe that's a weird thought. So maybe we could like dump our whole hand with like Baubles and Mox Diamonds, Chrome Moxes, Mox Opals, whatever. Dump a load of those into play. Smallpox, we just lose 1 life, but our opponent loses a whole bunch of stuff. And then we draw up with our Baubles and things and carry on going. That's a real weird way that you could approach a Smallpox deck, but I'm kind of into it as something that's a bit different than maybe we could try out. But yeah, if you do a donation deck that has Raven's Crime in it, I'm going to play it and I'm going to have a good time. And I think we had a pretty good time today. Like, I adore this card so much. Like, Life from Alone, Raven's Crime is absolutely my jam. I think if I wanted to play this sort of deck, I'd probably play... there's a deck on my channel. I'll put it in the description if I remember to when I'm editing this. It was like a slow depths build where we had like Reclaimers. I think we had Worm Harvest in there as a singleton. I think we had 3 Entombs, 3 Life from Malones, a Raven's Crime, a Dark Blast. So we're doing a lot of the same things here, but by not running the Smallpox, we kind of had like some different options going on there. So I'd probably look somewhere like that if I want to play something like this. But if I want to play Pox, I'd probably... I don't know, maybe I'd try and do something really radical. Because Pox decks, like if you watch like Bosch and Roll or Thraber News channel, which are both great and you should definitely watch, they quite often play Pox. Because Pox, you know, it's got quite a powerful but niche following of people that really like it and obviously submit decks and stuff. That's why I'm playing it today. And, you know, they're a great community as well, the Pox players. So you see people like Phil and Brian, they're playing Pox decks, and they sort of run into similar problems that we did today, where Pox becomes awkward to cast. And it feels like it feels like this deck's doing some really good stuff. You know, we had all these Life from the Loam, Wasteland, ramping stuff out, sitting behind powerful Planeswalkers, you know, bit of hand disruption. We were doing powerful things in our deck. But then we also had these Smallpoxes that didn't feel they were doing as much as the other cards in our deck. So I think maybe an interesting direction to take Pox I might have a little look at when I get back from European Legacy Masters. This is actually the last video I'm recording before I go away in 2 days. So obviously you're seeing this, I don't know, a week, maybe even 2 weeks after the tournament when it all comes out. But when I go back from that, I might have a little think and chat with some of the Pox community about trying to do something really radical. Because I think trying to play like a bunch of good cards around Smallpox that isn't necessarily leaning into the Smallpox, you're just kind of like, obviously Life from the Loam does, but the other stuff we're doing not amazing at leaning into it. Like having a Planeswalker sitting behind it, great. So maybe we should be leaning heavier into Planeswalkers. Can we find ways of mitigating our lands and stuff that we're sacrificing? I think so. Maybe we can try something a bit weirder and more wonderful to try and get that going. So that's kind of the angle I'm looking at, doing something very out there, but seeing if we can leverage Smallpox as a card that we like want to see all the time, right? Whereas today it didn't feel like we wanted to see Smallpox that often. So that could be something to work. If you've got any ideas, I'd love to hear them. Some sort of black 8-cast deck with Smallpox type thing. I don't know. I'm just sort of throwing some ideas out there. Maybe they'll coalesce into something playable, or at least something fun that we can do on the channel. So if you've got any thoughts, I'd love to sort of get a little bit of help on building something like that. And I'll certainly ask the Pox community, because I think they'll have some input too. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this one. Pox is a deck you don't see that often, but it does some cool stuff. We didn't get to Ghost Quarter anyone into the absolute dirt today, which made me a little bit sad. I used to love doing that to people, but maybe we'll play it again and try it again with the old Ghost Quarter. But we went 3-2, which is relatively respectable. I think a few little tweaks to this. Like the crop rotation never felt amazing. I think maybe that's a slot you could look at. Let's sorry, I was all ready to wrap up and I just had some more thoughts. Sorry about that. So I think these are the slots that I would consider messing around with. If you want to keep the Smallpoxes in, which I think, you know, you do, you're a Smallpox deck, right? So I think this is probably where we can look to make some tweaks to try and reinforce the things we're doing. So I quite like Grist. I wouldn't mind having more Grist in the deck. It just felt like a really powerful thing to be doing. I wouldn't mind having more Entombs, because when you set up your Life from the Loam, that makes your Smallpoxes better, because you can actually Smallpox and then kind of ignore it and just get your Life from the Loam going again. And obviously Entomb makes it more reliable that you can do the whole Life from the Loam shenanigans. Maybe there's some other cool stuff. I've played things like Vengeful Pharaoh in the past, which is a bit of a wild one. I won't lie. But there's probably some other stuff we could put in the graveyard that we get some value from. I'd also say that at the moment there's more basic lands in Legacy than there has been for a while. I think the last time there was this many basic lands was when the Astrolabe was legal, and people were just playing all the snow lands and just channeling their mana into that. Because people have got Lorien Revealed now, and they've also got Troll of Khazad-dûm, and both of those encourage decks that wouldn't necessarily play basics to run one basic, or, you know, maybe play some more basics because they know they can find what they need to. So that's kind of changed the meta a little bit as well, which makes just trying to Wasteland lock people not always as good. Now, we had a pretty good run of it today in terms of decks that we could Wasteland, but it's still something that's going to come up, even if it didn't come up in these matches. All right, I think I'm done with this one today. I hope you enjoyed this one, and if you would like a donation deck on the channel, by all means get in touch via the Discord or leave me a comment. I really appreciate the support you're giving me, but the most important thing is just keep watching and enjoying Legacy, because it's a great format that I have a lot of love for, as you can tell, because it's all I make on my channel. I don't play anything else, just love it. So like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.